Hi, this is Celena Gill, your Washington, D.C. iVoice, coming straight from my kitchen. And I wanted to talk to you all today about something that everyone has experienced at least once in their life, losing a loved one or a friend. I lost my older brother, Andre, to AIDS. Losing him was a really tough thing for us to go through as a family, and my mother having to bury a child was really hard for her. Later in 2006, my mother died of breast cancer, and that is a life changer when your mother dies. I cry about it every now and then. I just get really sad because I don't have my mother. My mother's the person that I would turn to and I would call when something was wrong and when something was right. I really miss her. I really, really miss her. I actually met some mothers who've lost children, and I also met a mother who lost her mother. Here are their stories.
I have a son, Mateo, who's 10, and I had a son, Mason, who passed away from cancer at age 5.
My mother passed away on April 23rd, 2010, after a 3-year battle with cancer.
I gave birth to twins, a baby girl and a baby boy, and we knew that the baby girl had a hole in her heart, and we were expecting that she would have to have surgery. And luckily, we thought only 2% of children die from this surgery. Unfortunately, she ended up being one of those 2%.
We knew going into the process when Mason was diagnosed with cancer that he had brain cancer, and the diagnosis or prognosis was not good because it was metastatic diagnosis. So we knew we were in for a long, hard fight, and we had some time to prepare. And so we actually did a lot with both our kids, and we were very honest. And one thing I'll say is we were very honest with our children. Right up until the end, we had a couple different conversations with them about heaven and what it would be like and who was going to be there for him and who was going to be waiting and who he was going to see. And so we prepared our kids that way.
My mother spent the last month in the hospital, which really allowed us time to say this is the place we're in and this is where we have to move from. With Georgia, her first and only grandchild, we told her that Grandma was sick and going to the hospital, told her hospitals are places where, people go to feel better. And, we explained to her from the beginning that sometimes people will not get better.
With her funeral, we did it like you would a party or a wedding or an event in New Orleans. And that was really important to me. It was to focus on being happy and joyful that she had been in our lives, and how just in that brief 2.5 months that she was in our lives, to focus on how she made us better people and how she will continue to make us better people through the rest of our lives. Everybody who walked in my house that day of the funeral knew, leave your tears at the door, don't cry, put on pink, be happy, we're going to celebrate this life. And that's what we did.
We just talk about them. I think one thing that parents who've lost a child will say is that they never want their child that's gone to be forgotten. And so we try to focus on funny stories. We created a fund in our son's name at the hospital, and that's been a real good vehicle for us as a family to grieve together and to do something positive in his memory. And I think that that's one thing that I've really learned, is that just to try to get out and do something positive rather than focusing on the sadness, because the sadness doesn't go away. Mateo has a network of friends, and we've really relied on his network of friends because they're now his brothers, and Mateo is now a single child. And so it's the community of people that we have created here in Arlington have become his siblings and his family, and that network of support is so critically important.
The day that I knew was going to be George's last visit with Grandma, brought all of her favorite books that my mother liked to read to Georgia, and they just sat on the bed and read books. And when my mom got to the point where she was a little too tired for any more, she didn't say anything, she just looked at me, and immediately Georgia just crawled right up into her lap and gave her a big hug. You know, just out of the blue, no prompting. It's like she knew that that was her final goodbye.
I have a 4.5-year-old and Mamie Grace's twin brother, Brooks, who is 11 months old now. We were really honest with him about everything. You know, at 4.5, he only understands a certain amount, but we were honest and we told him she had a hole in her heart and the doctor couldn't fix it, and she went to heaven. And of course, he doesn't understand what heaven means, but we explained she's up in the clouds. For a while, he really didn't grasp that, but what we did and what we do is keep her in our lives and in his life every single day. The honest approach for us, in addition to keeping her in our lives on a daily basis, made it easier for him somehow to cope with that missing piece of our family.
I think the thing that I would say, that if it's not a sudden death, or if you have the opportunity to be honest and talk about what's happening, kids make up in their mind what much worse than what it possibly could be, and having an honest conversation of what do you think heaven's like, or what do you think happens when you die, or having frank discussions as a family. And then if you have an emotional reaction to what they're saying, because sometimes they say things that you don't want to hear, that are incredibly sad, you take a deep breath and you manage it. And if you start to cry, say, it made me cry because it makes me sad that you feel that way. Or giving them the language of emotion is incredibly important. My biggest recommendation to parents is to talk about it. Be open, be honest, and always be ready for the conversation. Always be ready for the conversation. And when you're not feeling well, or you're not grieving well, you need to take care of yourself, because you can't take care of your kids if you're not taking care of yourself. The loss never goes away as a parent. Somebody said to me, you know, the pain never really goes away. You just learn how to manage it.
Children's minds are so open and have such capacity for understanding if we, allow them to. The people who have left us, their memories are forever with us. And, that's what we seek comfort in, knowing that they still really are with us. And, being upfront with Georgia, it's just a matter of fact, Grandma's in heaven, and we still talk to her, we still think about her, we still laugh with her, each and every day, and she'll always be a part of us.
Thank you.
All right. Whew.
Losing a child is one of the most horrible things you'll ever have to go through, and I think everybody grieves in their own way. And I think if I would give advice to another mother grieving, which is really hard to do, is to celebrate. That was such good medicine for me and for my family, was to just celebrate and really embrace what this young child did for us. And I think keeping that child's memory alive is really important.